Hi, my name is Jackie. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when I was 8. I play hard because that's how I do everything. I always push myself to be the best that I can be. Type 1 diabetes does not stop me from doing the things that I like to do. Hello and welcome to Teen 1D, the podcast for teenagers and young adults living with type 1 diabetes. The podcast is not intended as a substitute for professional medicine advice or treatment. My guest for today's episode is Jacqueline Burke. Thank you so much for being on here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to, meet another Jacqueline diabetic,
Yes.
but also to talk a little bit about my journey with T1D and in research.
Yes, I'm so excited to be able to talk with you about that today. So tell us a little about yourself. Where did you grow up and when were you diagnosed with type 1?
Yeah, so I was born in Detroit, Michigan, and then when I was 6, we moved to the suburbs. I think my parents were done with city life. I spent most of my time during my childhood in Troy, Michigan, and I was diagnosed at age 9. Yeah.
So how do you manage your type 1, and has it always been the case? Do you use like a closed loop, a pump, Dexcom, or any other different technologies?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely kind of an evolving situation. I was on the Medtronic pumps probably for almost 10 years. I think I started when I was like 10, and then I delved into the closed loop for a bit. But unfortunately, some of the older Medtronic pumps are a little hard to come by these days. So I switched to Tandem because I really like their Control-IQ features, but I also really like the Omnipod, the feature of you can kind of wear whatever clothes you want, and especially when I'm in the lab a lot and walking around, sometimes the tubing gets tangled when I rip my sights off. So what I've actually been doing this past week is I'm doing Omnipod during the day, so I get that freedom, and then I do Tandem with a closed loop at night. So I'm a bit eccentric.
So what is it like to switch in between both of those? Do you have to like suspend one or the other, or take any of them off and put on a new site?
Yeah, so what I do is I change my site at the same time every 3 days on both pumps, and I just put less insulin in each. And then for the Omnipod, since it's always on me during the night when I want that closed loop coverage, so I sleep a little better, don't have to worry about going low, I will just set a temp basal from whenever I go to bed to 5 a.m. And then it automatically starts in the morning at 5 a.m. And when my alarm rings, I take my Tandem pump off.
Wow. I've just never heard of anyone doing that before. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
So just to get a little more into what you're doing now, where did you go to college and what did you major in?
Yeah, so I went to Johns Hopkins University. It's in Baltimore, Maryland. And I studied biomedical engineering. I guess when I was in high school, I kind of didn't really know a lot about engineering in general. I think that's kind of maybe a problem that a lot of young women face, unfortunately so. I knew I wanted to, have an impact in the T1D area. I really love biology. I love math. But I knew I didn't want to be a doctor. I think I'd been in too many doctors' offices and hospitals throughout my life to have a goal of that. So I was kind of doing some perusing online when I was trying to figure out my college path. And I stumbled upon biomedical engineering and found Johns Hopkins had a great program. So that's what I went with. And it's been great ever since.
Cool. So what was your experience like at Johns Hopkins?
Oh, it was pretty good. It was definitely a transition. You're kind of completely on your own, when you first start college, and not only from a, social kind of point of view, but also with your diabetes management. So I think you kind of learn a lot more about yourself and a lot more about how to communicate your needs as someone living with type 1 diabetes to others in that situation, whether it be your roommate, your professors, etc. And so, you make a lot of mistakes. The first, one of the first quarters of college, I think I took a chemistry exam at like 50, and I
Oh,
was too
wow.
scared to like tell my professor that this is something that happened. So I just kind of took the grade that I got. But obviously, I learned a lot from that. You can have some fruit snacks or whatever you want by you, and you shouldn't, they're not going to think you're cheating if you're eating some fruit snacks if your blood sugar is low. So, yeah.
Yes. So I also saw when I was just researching you that you were a research assistant in your time there. Did your research experience reinforce that you wanted to pursue research after graduating?
Yeah, for sure. So I had the fortune of working for a wonderful professor there, Dr. Sharon Grech, who's now at Duke. And I was able to study diabetic foot ulcers, which was not something I kind of wanted to go into because, it's no fun looking at ugly feet all day and kind of facing the complications of the disease that you live with every day. Kind of really puts it front and center. I think a lot of times we're like, oh, I'm a little high, that's okay. But if you're kind of confronted with, oh, this person had high blood sugars for 40 years and they're having a foot amputation, it makes it a little real. I loved the scientific aspects. I love the investigative aspects. I love being in the lab. I love the lab culture, but I didn't really want to, continue just focusing on these side effects or these complications that I would face. So this kind of led me, after Johns Hopkins to transition into a PhD program at Northwestern, where I studied eyelid transplantation. So this is kind of a therapy that is used to better control, obviously, type 1 diabetes and prevent those complications. So kind of went maybe in a backwards fashion, but wanted to be more forward thinking in the end.
Yeah. And then just one more thing, and I promise I'll be done talking about Johns Hopkins, but I saw that you were involved in the College Diabetes Network there. Can you describe what that experience was like?
Yeah, so that was pretty fun. We didn't have a chapter at Johns Hopkins, so myself and another actually biomedical engineer, we met in our first seminar class because I think either her Dexcom was beeping or mine was beeping, and the Dexcom beeping sort of just brought us together. And so we started the chapter, and it definitely was small, and sometimes we were the only people at the meetings, but hey, that was okay. But it was a really good support group to kind of understand different resources on campus. So we would meet with the cafeteria nutrition team and have different dinners with them, or just go out for coffee or go out for Chipotle. We even had a free Chipotle nights sometimes. So it was a good bonding experience. Good to meet other people from other majors, graduate students, professors. We even had Dr. Orla Wilson, who was really into the closed loop technology, come to one of our meetings. So I think it broadened my horizons and made me meet more people that had a similar life experience and that I could really connect with. So maybe not so much the diabetes even, but just kind of having those other friends and support system.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. And congratulations for starting that, by the way. That's a big accomplishment. So you talked about the islet cell transplants at Northwestern. I'm going to take about a deeper dive there. One of the things that I read before this was nanotherapy offers a new hope for the treatment of type 1. Can you describe this research as well?
Sure. So I guess, we're always thinking about this cure. And I think for a lot of us living with type 1 diabetes, I was diagnosed at age 9 and the doctor came and he's like, yeah, don't worry. In 7 years, the scientists will cure you. Well, it's been about 18 for me, and I don't think we're anywhere near there. So eyelid transplant, I definitely think is a really promising therapy for type 1 diabetes. So what happens is they'll have either some cadaver islets or they'll have stem cell based islets. And what they do is actually a pretty not too scary procedure. You have an infusion into your portal vein, which goes to your liver, and it's basically just like an IV of islets that is going into your liver. The problem right now, I guess there's two problems. One was there's not a lot of people that donate their pancreas. Organ donation is obviously an issue for most transplant procedures, so there wasn't a great source of islets. So with technology like that out of Vertex, which they make stem cell based islets, you can have an infinite supply of cells, which is great. So we can treat everyone. There's no, oh, this person gets it first, etc. And then the other issue is immunosuppression. So no one really likes to be on immunosuppression. There's a lot of nasty side effects. If you're on immunosuppression during this COVID pandemic, you basically had to live inside. You couldn't really leave your house because you're just so vulnerable to infection. So kind of the holy grail would be an immunosuppressive therapy that is just specific to those islet cells. And so in that way, you wouldn't be vulnerable to these other diseases because your whole immune system isn't shut down. If you're just tolerizing to the islets, then maybe you won't have some of these nasty side effects. So, people lose their hair, they have really bad mouth ulcers, they have lipid disorders, not really fun stuff. So, if we could have a better therapy that would, not have so many side effects, everyone could be on it. So, in terms of nanotherapy, we've been able to develop these nanoparticles. They are loaded with an existing immunosuppressive drug called rapamycin. And we deliver these nanoparticles just to very specific immune cells. And by delivering this drug just to those cells, you get a tolerance effect to these islets, and you give the immune therapy at a very similar timing to the eyelid transplantation. By also just targeting these cells, you're not having this systemic delivery where you would be causing side effects to other cell types. And also the nice thing about this therapy right now is we're still in mice, so we have a long way to go, is that you only have to take it or the mice only have to take it for 2 weeks, and they're tolerized for a very, very long time. So instead of having to take a therapy every day for your entire life, we're striving to make this more of a short-term tolerance-inducing therapy, as opposed to a kind of long-term, like knocking out of your immune system.
Yeah, I really admire that, though. That's just such a great feat, even in itself. Even when it's in mice right now, that's just fantastic.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's very fun. It's something that makes me excited to get up in the morning every day.
Yeah.
So some people just you're doing research because they love the science, but I love the science and I also have a passion for the potential benefit to type 1 diabetics as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm going to say that a million times. You can count how many times I do, but
All good.
I also know that when this was published, you were a doctoral candidate. Are you still working on your PhD, or have you completed it? And what other research are you doing now?
Yeah, so I finished my PhD in January.
Which, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, so now I'm working at another nanoparticle company, and we use nanoparticles for cardiovascular disease applications. And I'm also a research assistant professor at the University of Illinois, Chicago. And we're also trying to start a company with the diabetes technology that I mentioned from the paper. So very busy, but all good things and a lot of fun.
I know as well that you're also involved with Jdrf, and as someone who truly admires Jdrf and has been involved myself, can you share with us what you've done with them?
Yeah, so I guess, since I was diagnosed at 9, I've always been involved in Jdrf. Early on, it was the walk. I always thought it was very cool because I was a youth ambassador that I got to sit in a Corvette at the front of the walk. That was, my claim to fame for my my childhood years. But now I'm a part of the Young Leadership Committee, the YLC, and I'm the outreach chair. So, we do a lot of interesting things, but the event that I love the most is called Type 1 Nation. It's actually this weekend. And so we get to meet up with a bunch of teens and talk about what it's like to deal with diabetes as a teen. I know I was not the best example of diabetes as a teen. I think it's very hard. There's a lot of hormones going on. You're growing, you're changing schedule all the time. It's a bit rough. So I think it's important to chat with that community and, maybe if I had some life experience that I can share with them to make their life a little easier, I would love to do that. And I also think I learned a lot from them. Sometimes I'm in the lab too much and I'm a little out of touch with the pop culture or different things. So I always find myself learning some new interesting tidbits at Type 1 Nation. So it's a good time.
Yeah. And so I know, as someone who probably spends a lot of time in the lab and has just finished their PhD, you probably experience a lot of stress. And I just have asked this question to people who've appeared on here before. And I want to ask if stress affects your blood sugars, because I know it 100% does mine.
Stress definitely makes me very high, and then I have this tendency to maybe like rage bolus, you could call it, and then you end up going low. So I'm trying to, let either the control IQ take care of the highs when I'm stressed, or to be less of a rage boluser. I also think for me, like, it's really important for me to meal prep. I will make my lunches on Sunday for the week, and even sometimes my dinners because I get really busy. And I count the carbs then, because otherwise, if I'm trying to grab something random that I don't know exactly what's in it, it's probably not the healthiest. Probably, not as cost effective either. Yeah, so I think definitely if you can plan some meals, that's always a good plus. And then you're less likely to also like skip meals, because that's something that I've done when I'm stressed, or eat out of vending machines, which never a good go.
Do you have any tips for managing your blood sugar when you are stressed?
If you can try to understand the potential for highs or lows that might occur during your day when you're going to be stressed, and kind of think about what you can do before that happens to mitigate those situations, whether it's like throwing some extra fruit snacks in your bag or glucose tabs or whatever you treat lows with, or maybe it's really helpful for you to like do some yoga in the morning or do some Pilates. I like to sometimes just do a few stretches, whatever, to kind of calm yourself a bit down for the day. It's a little harder, I think, to act in the heat of the moment, because one, you're stressed, and then you probably have unpleasant blood sugar as well. So if you can kind of preemptively try to mitigate these things, that's the thing that I try to do.
And then what do you use to treat low blood sugar as well? I know that you talked about fruit snacks, but is that your primary source, or do you use anything else?
Yeah, I definitely use the Welch's fruit snacks a lot. And then sometimes I will also use the Capri Sun lemonade juice boxes or juice bags. Those are probably the primary things.
And then as we close out the episode, I'm going to ask you just a few more questions that are more advice-based. So do you have any advice for anyone transitioning to college or living on their own with T1D?
I would definitely try to find other T1Ds that you can just chat with, even you can have a little complaint party if you want to. And the other thing that was really difficult for me, which I didn't realize would be difficult, was just make sure you have a good way of getting your supplies to your dorm room, and getting your packages, etc. Or, if you're having them delivered to home and having your parents bring them, just have a very, robust method to do that, because, with these dorm rooms kind of not so standardized addresses and insurance companies, that can always be a headache. And you want to make sure the last thing you want is like to not have the supplies you need when you're, taking a big test or going to some fun event. You want to just be focused on college and having that great experience and not, oh no, I'm out of reservoirs. So, yeah.
Yes. And then, do you have any advice for anyone interested in pursuing a career in biomedical research?
Yeah, so one of the things that's great about the biomedical and biomedical engineering community is people are very willing to have you come in and shadow, come in and, help participate, be a lab assistant. I think you had Dr. Solomonpour on here, Scott, and when I was in college during one summer for a little bit, he let me shadow in his lab. And so that was a great experience to be in the lab with someone who was diabetic and also work a little bit. I think I worked on Plex 16A, if I remember. So, very specific pathway. Definitely just reach out to mentors. People send me emails all the time saying, hey, can I shadow you? Can I come learn different things? And whenever it's possible, sometimes it's just not feasible, but we try to bring people in and, have them watch or learn, whatever. And I definitely think if you're in high school, if you're in college, go shadow, go find those experiences. People are really eager to teach.
As our final question for the day, I like to remind everyone that I have as a guest with type 1 that we are all more than that. And so I like to ask my guests to share a movie or a book or a TV show or anything they like to do in their free time. I know that you mentioned that you are frequently busy, but in your free time, what do you enjoy doing?
So I love dogs. And so I volunteer with an organization called One Tail at a Time and foster dogs in need or babysit them. So dogs are kind of my getaway from all the craziness that happens in lab. It's really nice to see these dogs that are just wanting to give you love and are just very sweet. So I think it's a very rewarding experience if anyone's looking for kind of a good activity. You don't even have to be really social to anyone. You can just go walk a dog or, hang out with some dogs for a little bit at a shelter. It's really rewarding. So that's what I love to do.
Have you ever had a dog live with you, as in fostering it like that?
Yeah. So right now we have a dog. They named it Pete Davidson. It's kind of a funny name. But he's a real little guy. He's a Chihuahua Terrier mix, and he just got neutered yesterday, so he has been a little sassy lately, but he's real fun. He likes to jump and run and, jump on the bed, things he's not supposed to do, but, it's a good time. We really like him. He's a real cutie.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here today. I really enjoyed having you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to chat and excited to start listening more to your podcast as well. I've listened to a few. But,
thank you.
It's very good. I wish I would have had something like this when I was younger because, it's kind of nice to hear from other people that have done really awesome things with type 1 diabetes and kind of realize that there's not these real limits that maybe some people think. Yeah.
No, one of the ones that I think is just incredible is I had Casey Raymond on here, and she's a pilot. And I know that's the thing of oh yeah, you can't be type 1 diabetic and be a pilot. And no, she's a pilot, and she's only my age too. I think she's 17 or 18.
Oh wow. What do you want to do? Do you know?
I am going to major in economics next year.
Cool.
So exact pathway is still uncertain, but I know what I'm majoring in, so
yeah you'll get there, because right now it's deciding on did you decide on a school or
I have to wait until the last week of March.
Oh, okay.
And then I'll have all of my regular decisions back.
Okay,
so
cool.
Yeah,
good luck.
Thank you so much. That's all for today. If you have any suggestions for future topics or guests, or just want to say hi, don't hesitate to reach out. You can email me at teen.teen1d@gmail.com or DM me on Instagram at teen1dpodcast. If you like my podcast, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review, as it really does help me out. Thanks so much for listening, and don't forget to tune into next week's episode. Have a great week. Bye.